There's plenty of reason to be angry, but there's also a way to turn it, a way to channel it, a way to harness it, and there's always a way to make an impact, just like General Hertling taught us. And you know the deal. It's time to turn that anger, sadness, frustration, inspiration, agony into positive impact. It's time to be a helper.
Always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers, even just on the sidelines. Because if you look for the helpers, you'll know that there's hope.
Every show, we offer a way to convert that righteous anger into positive action. An action that channels your energy, makes you feel good, and makes a difference. And like this show, our actions are always packed with the 4 I's: integrity, information, impact, and inspiration. And we really need to step up right now and deliver.
I am thinking it's a sign that the freckles in our eyes are mirror images, and when we kiss they're perfectly aligned.
My grandfather came to this country as a young man, not speaking the language and not knowing anyone. He'd go on to serve in the Army in World War II in the South Pacific for 3 years. And when he came home, he continued to serve, like millions of others, by working at the post office. My grandfather worked at the post office for almost 30 years. My grandfather was there roughly 50 years ago this month, when the Post Office Department changed its name to the United States Postal Service. That's when the Post Office Department became an independent establishment of the executive branch of the United States government. Postal Career Service was established, and political appointments to the Postal Service jobs were prohibited, a framework that stands today. But 50 years ago, many postal workers were exhausted, overworked, underpaid, and hungry, and they had no negotiating power. But they were energized by the civil rights movement, and postal workers in New York went on strike. That strike sparked a movement that spread across the country, and more than 200,000 postal workers refused to deliver the mail unless things changed. And that situation turned into the largest wildcat strike in U.S. history. A wildcat strike means they didn't have the approval of their union leaders to walk off the job, and it was technically illegal. It was against the law for federal employees to strike and punishable at that time by a year in jail, a $1,000 fine, and an automatic firing. So it was risky for them. And President Nixon tried to come down hard. He ordered them back to work, he threatened to crush the strike, and he ordered the National Guard to deliver the mail, which did not go well. The strike lasted 8 days. And all this pressure led to the Postal Reorganization Act of 1970, which is when the Post Office Department turned into the USPS, guaranteeing collective bargaining rights for its workers. 50 years ago, postal workers stepped up to defend themselves. Now, they need you to step up to defend them, because they're under attack. They're under attack from President Mayhem. The Postal Service is the most popular government agency in America. It has been for a long time. The latest Gallup poll found that 74% of Americans rated the post office as excellent or good. NASA only got 60%. The IRS, 50%. And despite years of cash problems, mostly the fault of Congress, most people like their good old mail carrier. America couldn't function without the Postal Service. It's the oldest federal agency and the only one explicitly authorized in the Constitution. Ben Franklin himself created it to support the Revolutionary War effort. There are 26,400 post offices, and they handle nearly 150 billion pieces of mail annually, or 47% of the mail in the entire world. UPS and FedEx could not possibly handle that volume, especially not to far-flung locations in rural areas that just wouldn't be profitable. Not even for parcels, as the USPS accounts for 40% of Amazon shipping. And the Postal Service has seen a huge spike in demand for package delivery as people shop more online under the quarantine. And they serve another important function. They empower people to vote by mail. So Congress authorized the Postal Service to borrow $10 billion as part of a coronavirus relief package. But Treasury Secretary and renowned asshole Steve Mnuchin is refusing to hand over the money until it turns its operation over to him, which is ridiculous and probably illegal. Now, some of this is driven by Trump's hatred for Amazon chief Jeff Bezos. And Trump has this idea that it has to be profitable and it's not a government service. And if you're not tracking, in May, Trump did what Trump does. He put a crony in charge, a guy named Louis DeJoy. Now, Louis DeJoy is the first postmaster in 2 decades without any experience at the United States Postal Service, just like Betsy DeVos at Education had never been a teacher. And like other appointees, he had massive financial conflicts of interest, including investments in Postal Service contractors and competitors like UPS and a trucking company, J.B. Hunt. So DeJoy and his wife have assets of as much as $75 million in Postal Service competitors or contractors. So as soon as he took office, DeJoy started chopping up the post office months before an election. He's limited overtime. He's instructed mail carriers to leave mail behind that slows down their delivery route, and he's required that they park no more than 4 times along their delivery route. Meanwhile, Trump's demanded the Postal Service quadruple its rates on packages. And here's another casualty of these attacks. Veterans. Veterans like my grandfather was. The Postal Service is one of the largest employers of veterans nationwide. Nearly 100,000 military veterans are employed by the Postal Service, or about 15% of its entire workforce. And the agency estimates that at least 60% of its veteran employees have a disability rating. In the military, it's about getting the mission done. And it's the same thing with the post office. And there's another factor. The vast majority of VA prescriptions are fulfilled by mail. But as the Postal Service delays mount, more and more veterans are reporting long wait times to receive critical medication, and VA staff is saying the problem's growing. Abby Bennett at Connecting Vets has continued to stay on this story and do an excellent job. So the VA's mail-order pharmacy system processes nearly 500,000 prescriptions daily, and each working day, more than 330,000 vets get a package of prescriptions in the mail. Veterans who live further away from VA medical facilities, especially in rural and remote areas of the country, depend on their mail-order prescriptions to live. And veterans nationwide are reporting delays to their mail-order prescriptions to Connecting Vets and to other members of the media. In recent weeks, veterans say their wait times have doubled, tripled, or worse. Some reported wait times as long as 3 weeks or more for prescriptions that used to take just a few days. And none of them have gotten an explanation from the VA. The hashtag is Save the Post Office. There's a new bill aimed at reversing organizational and structural changes undertaken by the Postal Service by the new postmaster that was just introduced by Congress. The Delivering for America Act was introduced by Carolyn Maloney in New York, and it's the latest action over the agency's cutbacks and slowdowns ahead of the 2020 election that's already been upended by the pandemic. So the Postal Service is under attack. They're in a crisis caused by the coronavirus that's being exacerbated by attacks by Trump, and Congress needs to act urgently. The Postal Service could run out of money soon, and the new Postmaster General is already using the crisis to slow down mail and packaging, sorting, and delivery. And you can help us fight back. Call your senators today and tell them to support at least $25 billion in stimulus funding for our Postal Service. Tell them to defend the Postal Service. You can go to congress.gov. If you've never done it, it's a great website. You can go in there and put your address. It pops right up, and it'll connect you with your members of Congress, your 2 senators, and your representative. Do it. If there was a time for you to take action, this is it. It's key to our elections. It's key to our economy. It's key to our veterans. It's key to the fabric of America. An attack on the United States Postal Service is an attack on our veterans who served in the armed forces and continue to serve today. From the beginning of America's existence, the post office has delivered for America. And this fall, as millions cast their ballots by mail, they have the most important delivery for America yet. But before the Postal Service can deliver for us, they need you to deliver for them. Be a helper. Step up and defend the post office. Go to congress.gov, contact your representatives, and tell them to defend the post office now. It's time to deliver, people. Step up and defend the Postal Service.